table. And
Round
look,
table.
we are 192 hours away from the start of the first week one. We do have games tomorrow. 6 games, one in Dublin, Ireland. I hope they go to Trinity University, to the Book of Kells, to look up all the great Irish names. It is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. Food is average, but the whiskey and the beer are incredible.
I mean, I'm not a big fan. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big fan. I mean, there's a lot of castles, you know. It rains a lot.
It's cold and rainy.
It's cold and the food
and dark.
sucks.
It rains 6 times a day.
People are kind of pissed. I mean, I'm Irish, so maybe that's probably where I get it. But like, you know, let's be honest. You know, there's other places to go.
I'm Scotch-Irish, and when you go there, you better have a good raincoat. That's why Barber was started in England, who makes all the expensive
words
coats.
to live by.
That's right. Hey, look, we got a great show today, the Friday Roundtable. Ken Capps checks in from the Hook'em Hut out in Dallas. We'll be talking Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, the whole SEC, all 16, Doug Dean, Frank Duffy. Smash the subscribe button, bottom right-hand corner, allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. And tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, everybody that you know. And we have great sponsors. You can find all of them on sidelines.live, like the Vitamin Shop. I've been using this prebiotic. I'm telling you, put it in your coffee in the morning. They sell it at the Vitamin Shop, Oxford and Olive
look
Branch.
at Rob in the morning.
Yeah.
Hey, you want that kind of energy?
We're ready to go. Absolutely.
That's what you're taking. I've been trying to figure out from Audrey what
it's not that. It's I'm this way. I'm kind of wired anyway, like JoJo the Circus Boy. But I'm also wearing a Marshwear hoodie that I got at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square, Collierville, Tennessee. Hey, get pen and paper handy because we're going to make your day start better than ever. Let's go.
Ever.
So tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. No,
And
we're
then
not.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man. Brendan, I wish YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all would let us use bump music like we do in radio because Audrey is a bumpologist. She puts together music based on the time of the year, the weather, and everything. And we would have 10 to 12 songs on our Saturday 2-hour show. Frank remembers the bump music. We would play country, rock, blues, jazz, little Beethoven,
I know.
Mozart.
You know what? I don't like to talk about things we can't have, Rob. I don't like to talk about that shit. So thank you, Rob. Thank you for taking me down memory lane of something I can't have. Thank you.
Let me just tell you
with the show now. Bump musicologist person.
Well, you've got the Euro, the techno, the disco Euro techno music going.
You know what? The kids, and you know what? And the kids like it.
Yeah,
like it. Right?
Yeah. I tell you what,
we can't have all Leonard Skinner all the time, Rob.
No, we don't.
We got to move on.
Yeah. I like a little Ein Klein Nacht music, a little Mozart night music. We'll put a baby or a human to sleep. Look, I've always said this, and Ken Capps will be with us in a minute from out in Texas. If you ever are having trouble sleeping at night, I recommend reading this book. It's about this thick, okay? Norton's Anthology of English Literature. We all suffered through it in high school. Silas Marner, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Why are we suffering now?
An occurrence at Owl Creek.
I mean, if you want to fall asleep, listen to the intro of this show. My God, let's go.
All right. Look here,
what the hell is going on here?
What is happening?
Hey, listen.
I thought this was a football show.
Hey, look, I've got the football schedule. Look here. Look at this. Right there. That's the football schedule on the big 18 by 30-inch grid. And I'm so ready for football, guys. Doug, I was thinking about something yesterday, and this is a question I have. Ken is the only guy I know that has a studio with a mounted Longhorn on the wall. I commend you. I've never seen anyone order a Longhorn steak, but yeah. Ken, we're having a little trouble with the reception here, but
Rob, be careful how you say mounted Longhorn.
Yeah, no, on the wall, on the wall. But look, guys, 192 hours away from week 1, but we do start tomorrow, and then Thursday, Missouri will be jumping in as well. What right now? There are so many storylines, so I'm going to get started. Ken sent me 2 pictures last night because he is an old style reporter. He's got all of his notes and stuff scribbled down on his sterno notepad like writers do.
Oh yeah,
Doug does that. But Ken, let's get started. We got Doug Dean in Birmingham. Frank Duffy looks like he's in North Georgia in Big Canoe.
Yep, back home.
And it's 61 degrees here in Memphis this morning. Look at those notes. Okay.
See, we're old school, man. We're old school. Right. This is a Walmart spiral that I just bought on back to school, for 45 cents. So this is what I use. I've been using these since 1975, and they've never done me wrong. My spiral has never crapped out on me or run out of battery power. But man, it's so good to see. It's so good to see you guys and to be back here on sidelines. And, I've been really, really missing visiting with y'all. I'll tell you what, guys, it was fun seeing Rob over here in the Metroplex.
And Brendan was incredible, wasn't he?
When he and Brandon and the intern came in for SEC Media Days, we had a heck of a time here in Dallas. And it was really fun to have all the SEC folks over here. And, I know it's a little different for them. I made an interesting point to the one of the SEC PR guys. I said, "Hey, I got a question for you. Would this be the first time that SEC Media Days has been held west of the Mississippi?" And they had never thought of it like that. They go, "Yeah, I guess so."
Sure it is.
Well, Ken, if I can say, through this 100,000 watt blowtorch that Rob runs to your Longhorn fans, borrowing a line from Will Ferrell in that movie about campaigns. Welcome to the effing show, baby.
Amen, bro.
In
Amen.
1 week.
Amen. Well, I'm here to talk about Texas and A&M and Oklahoma. So, that's kind of my beat. And what a dream come true for me. And it's so glad to be with you guys again. Frank, I already wrote you a note that, you're going to have to pick a game where I can road trip it over to Baton Rouge and get on that bus.
Hey, come on. Look, hey, I think that the Ole Miss game, when we play them in that early October, the weather's going to be probably starting to turn a little bit. In fact, by the way, here in Big Canoe, I got that first little blast of fall weather this morning. When I walked out to walk the dog, it felt great. So that will be a wonderful time to come, Ken. And look, it's just cool enough in early October to crank up the gumbo.
Frank, your audio, you're kind of breaking up. If you can get your audio and work with Brendan on that. But no, I'm with you, and it feels like fall. Doug, Birmingham, you're at an elevated compared to where I am in the Delta, but it is harvest time. The beans are starting to turn brown. They're harvesting rice. And guys, it is football season. Doug, throw it in here, man.
Yeah, it's the time of year we all love. It may still feel sweltering, but I'm with Frank. My dog lets me know when she wants to go outside. She'll come and sit and stare at me. What are you staring at me for? Oh, I get it. You want to go outside, usually before the sun is up. But yeah, there's enough of a brisk feel to the air.
Yeah.
You can't help but think about college football. Of course, by the time we all make it to the stadiums, there will be paramedics hauling people out from overheating, but we won't care. We'll go anyway. Hopefully you get a night game. And, I wanted Ken to know, and this may be the kiss of death, but in my early SEC forecasts, I can't stand doing chalk. I mean, there's enough people picking Georgia or Alabama, right?
Yeah.
And I'm picking Texas, but I'm wondering, you've had some running back injuries, if memory serves. So I don't know if he's started. If Sark is doing, I'll let you. I don't want to steal your thunder, Ken. But I don't know if Sark has gotten to the point of student auditions for running back. But update us on that, because I love Texas's schedule. Man, if they've got it pretty easy on paper early season, except for Michigan, obviously. But then you get back-to-back Oklahoma and Georgia, and then I think a manageable stretch if they can stay healthy, and Quinn Ewers is who I think he is. Tell us about the Longhorns.
Oh man, well let me tell you, that's my number one headline of the day is every been a lot of hype about Texas ever since the Sugar Bowl. That last second pass, Ewers to Mitchell just a little bit lower in his chest, and Texas wins the Sugar Bowl. But Texas picked anywhere from I see fourth in the AP, and then definitely making the playoffs, and then who knows, playing Georgia maybe for the SEC championship. And that's a lot to put on a team in its first year in this gigantic mega league. And Texas loaded at every position, but then what happens? Training camp starts a couple of weeks ago. Cedric Baxter, one of the number one running backs. I'll get to the other one here in a minute, but Cedric Baxter goes down with a season-ending knee injury. Yeah. And then like 3 days later, Christian Clark, the stud freshman, that was not going to start, obviously, but he'll definitely be in the rotation, goes down with a season-ending Achilles. So Texas is down to 3 running backs. So the cupboard is not actually bare. And of course, Jaden Blue, that's the guy that is a stud. And everybody down in Austin is definitely looking forward to seeing him have really a breakout year. But you've only got 2 guys behind him. And so, they just started moving into the dorms. And you'll appreciate this, Rob. It's rush week down in Austin right now. So Sark may go over to those frats and see if he can get a bunch of those guys to come over and try out at running back. A lot of big boys over there, but no, he's actually thought about that. And there are Texas is so loaded at wide receiver and at tight end that he's got several guys over there that are already taking running back snaps and may change positions, because one of the big things about Sark is he's just not going to take anybody. I mean, there was talk about, well, maybe he could pull somebody late out of the portal. He's all about culture, just like his old boss Saban is. And so he's just not going to pull somebody just to get somebody on the team. He'd much rather have somebody that's already on there, that is bought into what's going on. And so I think Texas will be okay. But you're right. It's going to put a lot more on Ewers early on to use those wide receivers and, maybe use his feet a little bit more. And, of course, that brings up the whole other question. Do you want him to use his feet more? He can run, but then if he gets knocked out, what happens? Well, you know what happens. Arch Manning comes in.
By the way, Ken, if y'all are stealing their baseball coaches and now you're stealing their concept of the 12th man, I'm telling you, none of y'all over there in Austin are going to be able to start your cars in the morning without checking for bombs underneath the hood.
No kidding. No, that's so right. That's and remember,
12th man.
Doug was just talking about, the schedule and how manageable it is. And, the schedules I keep seeing are the ones that have Texas losing 1 game to Georgia, and that's at home right after the Oklahoma game. I mean, wow, 2 games, in 7 days like that. But, we don't have to worry about it because things are going to change, because Connor Wegman, the starting quarterback at A&M, has already guaranteed that A&M is going to beat Texas on so we
got
it right here.
Mouth.
He said, I always wanted to beat Texas, and that's what's going to happen. I want to make sure I got his quote right, so the Aggies don't think I'm trying to, hit on them. But so I guess I'm just going to stay home that Saturday and, put up my Christmas tree and, my Christmas lights, because there's no reason to watch that game. A&M's going to win it.
Well, Ken, I had with the Oklahoma quarterback who decided LSU's not tough at night. That was another.
Really. Well, the good news is nobody's gotten their car towed down at Texas this year. Remember, Arch got his car towed a couple times last year and lost his ID. So everybody's been really good down there this year. But that running back thing is going to be a problem, and they can get by those first few games. I mean, Colorado State, Louisiana Monroe, UTSA. But then you get into the meat of that schedule, and there's going to be another running back go down or at least get hurt, and they're going to need some more bodies out there.
Well, if there's thank you. There's a single coach that, if you make me wager, that it should be capable of scheming to throw the ball 70% of the time, it would be Sarkisian, and he may of necessity do some of that. But I have a feeling what you'll see is there are athletes loaded on most of these upper tier SEC teams, and there's somebody that played running back in high school is capable. Right. They won't be like the guy that went down, Baxter. But I hope I don't anger the Longhorn fans. But although I'm picking Texas to win the SEC, or at least be playing probably Georgia in the championship game, we're going to come back to that about, is it really a reward to get sent to Atlanta if you get your third loss and you leave your state in the committee? I think it might be smarter if you can manage it to get lucky and have only 2 losses and not have to go to Atlanta.
The Alabama route.
Yeah, that's funky how it works. But
I've got. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Doug, I like this comment that somebody made about Michael Crabtree. He's referring to when Texas was ranked. Well, Texas was going to be ranked number 1 and went up to Lubbock and played the Pirate. And, Colt McCoy was the quarterback. All was going well. And then on the last play of the game, Michael Crabtree tiptoes into the end zone and just takes Texas, just blows Texas season up. And that was just a heartbreaker. And so Texas does know how to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. So there's always that.
So I've got them. Here's the path. And by the way, this is controversial, maybe. I mean it more as a compliment to the difficulty of this league with Texas and Oklahoma jumping on board. But I think there will not be a single SEC team with less than 2 losses regular season.
Wow.
And if there's one,
very possible.
Texas has a chance to be that one. I'm a little worried about being thin at running back, but I think they got a very good defense, and Sark can score. Quinn Ewers is my favorite QB this year in the league, and there's several others. Milroe might have something to say about that. Certainly Georgia's quarterback, Carson. But I've got and it's a little bit of a revenge game, Texas beating Oklahoma. I think that's going to be a Donnybrook. And then you can afford to drop a competitive game against Georgia. I think that's in Austin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So being in Austin, I wouldn't be shocked if Georgia got knocked off there. And so then I do have on my birthday, and Bo Jackson's November 30th. I think it's such an emotional game. I kind of like Texas A&M in that one, but I might have to rethink that after Connor Wegman has written a check with his mouth.
Yeah, Ken, I'm going to make the second bold statement of this show, because I like what Doug just said. Here's this one. Texas goes into the Big House and blows out Michigan.
I agree.
I think that's going to happen. I think you know what this is going to remind me of? You remember back in the early 90s when Florida State went to the Big House and put 52 on Michigan? I think that's what happens with Texas. But I'm with Doug Dean and I'm with Frank about the 2 losses. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The SEC theme song, ask Martha Vandel's Trust.
That's
Martha
right.
and the Vandels, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. This league, top to bottom. We had Chris Plank back on the show Tuesday from the Boomer Sooner Network, and I was on his show in Oak City, Norman, which, Ken, it's just one city, isn't it? I mean, it's Oklahoma City, Norman. It's just morphed into one giant metroplex.
Yeah.
But, man, those Sooner fans, and you're around them, they are so damn passionate. Not that Texas fans aren't. But, Doug and Frank, I want Ken to expand on something he said to me in media days. And Ken and Bo and Vince Ferrara were there every day up in our studio, which was the room. Brendan did an unbelievable job. And I want to talk to you about what you said. The Texas fans get up a couple of times a year at hype level. But now you've got Georgia coming, and we're going to try to be there November 9th for the Florida game in Austin. What is it that Texas you think needs to get ready for? Because when you look around the SEC, it is an absolute three-ring circus every game day, no matter where you are.
No, oh, absolutely. And what I was trying to tell you at media days is that sometimes the Texas team, and this is over the decades, has people, the fans have thought they're a little complacent. They think, hey, we can just trot onto the field and win. And what Texas, even though Texas knows, and Sark said again at media days, Texas is everybody's big game on the schedule, no matter who you play. And I mean, I've been interested to watch all these SEC teams talk about playing Texas this year when they haven't played them, since the 20s or 30s. And but the Texas OU game is so important to me, and I've been to every one of them since 1978, my first year at UT,
God.
and every one of them. And what always gets me about that game is that I always feel like that Texas runs out on the field and they're okay, but they just don't have the same fire that Oklahoma does. Oklahoma comes out, and I mean their hair is on fire and they're just crazy and nuts running onto the field, and their fans are just going nuts as well. And I think Texas needs to have that same passion for the Oklahoma game, and they know it's a big game. Okay, they know that Oklahoma wants to beat the crap out of Texas every year, and guess what? In the last 10 years, Texas only beaten OU twice.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, you better get hyped up for it. But again, Rob, you mentioned it, now you got to get really up for every week, because you're not playing Iowa State and you're not playing Kansas. And now you're playing every week somebody that can knock you off. Of course, Texas has lost to Iowa State and Kansas too, so let's not get that far. But it's just going to be a big game every week. But I think that again, Sark, not only his scheme and his culture, I think are going to make a difference. But also, I just think that he knows the SEC, and he's got some kids. I mean, Isaiah Bond coming over from Alabama to play receiver, he's going to be starting, man. He's going to be starting, and he'll tell those boys down in Austin about, hey, man, you got to be up every week, just like everybody wants to knock off Bama, everybody wants to knock off Texas.
I think a lot of kids in Alabama this year are going to dress as Isaiah Bond for Halloween, especially if they have friends that are Auburn fans.
Hey,
knocking on the door. No.
Ken, you were doing so good, man, and you invoked your name, Isaiah Bond. The kid who's driving a Lamborghini in Austin, Texas right now.
Why not?
Yeah, that's right.
Good
Why not?
for him.
Cheating is legal now.
Right.
No, it's not cheating anymore. Exactly. That's right.
Yeah. Frank.
But I think that's funny. Well, but let's mention one other thing though. If we move off of Texas, I want to make sure I don't miss this. When you talk about NIL and Lamborghinis, somebody else got a really good gig here in the last couple of weeks, and I bet you guys have seen it. Quinn is the newest member of the Fansville on Dr. Pepper.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm the new guy. That's what he says. And just to Cam.
One, you there?
Go ahead, Doug. He froze.
Okay, Ken will come back in a second. But I was just going to say, Texas caught it. That's a good look there, Ken. Texas caught a little of a break.
Sorry, I lost
historically
you guys.
In the fact that this year, for the first couple of years, Texas, it's not their fault. I mean, you have to wonder if some of that real oil money and the clout that Texas has was a factor, but they do not have to play the mighty Crimson Tide. They don't have to play LSU. And now, you can say big deal if you want, but Auburn is a team that is starting to get back to form.
Yeah.
Texas does not. Auburn doesn't have to play Texas either, which is a break. But so I think Texas has a year one manageable, not easy. There's not a single easy schedule in the league now. I don't care who you are, especially Florida, for heaven's sake. I am not buying the narrative that everyone seems to. Hey, Texas and Oklahoma, you're going to find out how hard it is to play a really good team almost every week. And there's some truth to that. Yeah. I think that's more out of spite to the newcomers than the new kids on the block than it is based on reality, because Sark proved that marching into Bryant-Denny Stadium a year ago and managing to win that game.
Well, boy, look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma has got a tough schedule. Here Alabama's coming to Norman. That's gonna be a hell of a game. And those Alabama boys aren't gonna know what to do when they show up in Norman, Oklahoma.
Well, let me throw this to Frank. Frank, LSU's football history, and you're a lifelong Tiger, but I followed that program since I was a kid because of WWL AM 870. We could do a whole show on Clear Channel radio stations that make us fans, but there's a historian I saw on the documentary Saturday Night Lights on SEC Night Football. His last name is Harrison. He wears suspenders with a belt, gray-headed fella, really knows LSU. Bud Harrison, I think's his name. I don't know if you know him, Ken.
I don't know.
God, he just nailed it. He said they put that radio station in New Orleans, AM 870, WWL, King Edward Cigar Time. Remember, Frank? And you can hear LSU football. I remember as a kid listening to the LSU football coaches show to a guy calling in, no lie, from Nova Scotia. And his relatives lived down in Louisiana in Lafayette. And there is a powerful connection there about it. Yep. Frank, in LSU's proud football history, 132 years, they've only won one game on the road against a true road opponent that was ranked in the top 10. And that was the Texas game in 2019. And Ken, on behalf of all the LSU fans, I just wanted to say this for Frank and everybody, how happy they were with the treatment in the locker room when we were out there for that game. And they're ready to bring you to the swamp. And turn it up to 150.
I will tell you. I was so high, I got a nosebleed going up to our seats. But the LSU band was higher than we were. I kid you not. They had like 4 rows for the little bitty tiny portion of the LSU band. They couldn't have been higher without having like a helium balloon taking them up there. And what I heard was when LSU got to the locker room, it was so hot that they said that it was cooler on the Ponderosa practicing in July 2-a-days than it was in the locker room. So all I'm going to tell my Texas buddies on the first time that you guys come to Tiger Stadium, and by the way, we dodged it because of the SEC change of the schedule, because y'all were supposed to come the COVID year. Remember, it was going to be a home and home, and y'all missed it. Well, I'm just going to let y'all know, I hope you enjoy your seats in Port Allen across the river, because that's where the Texas contingent will be. You'll have to get your gumbo by pirogue across the river.
That's why I'm just going to stay on your bus, Frank. I'm just going to stay on your bus.
Smart move.
All right, Doug Dean, Doug, jump back in here. I'm going to start rapid fire.
Yeah, I want to, in service of this, Brendan, your producer, is going to really love this next take, which I'm borrowing from the great folks at The Athletic. Now, that's a pay subscription, but for my money, what they bring you, it's worth it. So consider The Athletic. But they, a couple of days ago, they went on they're quantitative nerds guys at The Athletic. Peter Keating, Jordan Brenner had constructed this analysis, and they found the correlations since 2014. They threw out, I like this, they threw out 2020 and 21 because of the weirdness of COVID. But they found about 6 or 7 criteria in which teams that are unranked, this is in service of the Cinderellas out there, and I pull for one of them for now. So does Brendan. But they winnowed it all down. I'm not going to take your listeners through everything they looked at. But one of them, for example, was if for a team that's unranked to end up in a 12-team playoff. That's my grandson. Sorry about that. They had to
put him on.
They had to be from a Power 4 conference. I'm not. He's already enough of a star from the last show. But,
that's right.
And then they have to be based team they had to play a tough schedule last year. It didn't matter if they had a losing season. And here's the 7 teams that fell out of their formula they're unranked teams that have, based on this model, have a decent chance to spoil the party and make the 12-team playoff. And I'm going to give them an order of the best odds that they calculated. Number 1 in this group of 7, Auburn. Hard to believe. I don't see Auburn able to have fewer than 3 losses, and so we're talking about long shots. The second one, Louisville. I think Kentucky needs to stand up and pay attention to that. Louisville's not going to be a cakewalk game for them. Nebraska, Matt Rule there. Can they finally break through? Then, Brendan, are you listening? Florida Gators. Now, they freely commented, but they fit this model that they built, that Florida has a brutal schedule. I think that's the fly in the ointment for them to have a chance to break the 12-team playoff. But stranger things have happened. Now, if Florida has 3 losses with that schedule, I don't see how the committee can leave them out with the degree of difficulty. That was cry out to heaven for vengeance. Number 5, pay attention, Coach DeBoer, Wisconsin Badgers as a potential spoiler. And that's like 3rd week of the season. They go to Madison to play Wisconsin. Right. Alabama does. Yep. Kentucky, come on, Mark Stoops, show us what you got. And finally, TCU. So those 7 teams fit their mathematical model as teams to keep an eye on as long shots. To be clear, they're really big underdog long shots, but with 12, this would be pointless with a 14 playoff. It's always chalk. It's always a ranked team. I think one time it was not a ranked team, but this year you are going to have some unranked team, 1 or 2 maybe unranked teams that spoil the party.
The puncher's chance.
Yeah, here's an interesting take.
I don't think it's going to be my team.
But I think with Florida, Brendan, one thing about Florida that they're a top 20 team talent-wise. If you look at the Blue Chip Index, they're 9th. They have not 63% of the roster is 4- and 5-star players. But you look at that schedule, and people get a severe case of logo fever. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. But like Cole Kubelik said Tuesday night at the Touchdown Club in Memphis, he said, anybody in here know what Miami's record was last year? I knew it. And anyone know what UCF? 6-7. He said, that's right. Why are we going crazy over this? But it's not, just because you may have struggled last year doesn't mean you can't be good this year. But I believe, Doug, what you said about the Athletic, they do a lot of research and connect the dots.
Well, there were some computers involved in this.
Some AI involved in that. A whole lot of AI involved in that. I agree. I agree with you, Doug. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, look, I hear what you're saying, Rob. Logo fear. What I guess I don't like this preseason stuff. I don't like it. I think it's a lot of hot air.
Wait till October.
This year we're gonna. This year, we don't have a clue. Especially this year, no one has a clue. So I think that actually we are going to all look like we have egg on our face about 6 weeks in. I think it's going to start looking like March Madness when you get brackets. I think it's going to be so much less predictable. I think, I think nobody knows what it's going to look like. I think nobody really knows where the talent
rosters change radically, and yet these pundits just go on linear thinking from how last year was.
Let me give credit.
Well, hold on 1 second. I just want to say that, look, I know we're going to a quote unquote pro set model. I understand that, like, as far as having free agency, this style, that style, that's all said and good. That's great in theory, but the structure does not exist. Like, plugging guys in and out with the amount of practice time that you get every year, with the amount of time you get with these players to put in pro set systems, to work on these things, and then all the grades and everything else. Like, we joke around. Like, we don't hear about eligibility much anymore, do we? No. It's funny how that goes away. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, we've got a long way to go. Look at, I think Florida suffered from that last year. As we saw, a huge part of their issue was organization, getting the right personnel on the field at the right time. A lot of these things. Now we got changes this year. We got headsets. They can talk into the headsets. That's going to be a big difference. But don't you think? I mean, my God, the technical side of that's not going to always work. Like,
right.
there's a lot into the implement, and then iPads on the sidelines. Okay, that's great. But like, these things take time to put into place. I think we're going to see a very, very dirty, ugly version of the SEC football this year. That's what I think.
This is not a wagering show. Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, I tell you what I like, around this time of year, and I've really enjoyed the last couple of weeks is, everybody's got a different prediction, and everybody gets written up for their prediction. I saw somebody, Frank, you'll be happy, said that LSU was the sleeper in the SEC. I saw that your old ball coach, Spurrier, is picking Alabama to win the SEC. But the best pick I saw, and I'm going back to your model, Doug, we need to call the Athletic and get them to go back and redo their computer. Brett McMurphy, who used to work for ESPN, he picked the Texas State Bobcats, which are right down the road from Austin in San Marcos, Texas. What else is important about San Marcos, Texas? That's where Ralph the Swimming Pig lived at Aquarina Springs, okay? I'm not kidding, okay? But now the Bobcats have a real team last year. Remember, they came to Frisco, which is here in the Metroplex, and they played in their first bowl game ever, and they ran out of beer at the Frisco Bowl. Never happened before. It's December, it's cold, but those fans were so excited, they completely drank them out of beer. My point is, Brett McMurphy has predicted that Texas State is going to make the college football playoffs and the University of Texas is not. So take that one to the bank. It's a great time of year. Everybody's got an opinion. Opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one, right?
That's not an opinion. That's a cry for help.
McMurphy may want to plan his vacation somewhere other than the Lone Star State. This is not a wagering show that I don't think you're sponsored.
Of course it is.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not. I mean,
if I were a betting man, it wouldn't be much money. But this year, going back to those 7 teams that are long shots that the Athletic ferreted out of there, they started with 54 and they kept finding criteria that fit.
Wow.
And they finally wined it. Then it was down to 32 and finally down to 7 that fit all the criteria. One of the things that a wagerer might consider, maybe not all 7 of these long shot teams, but go look at their over under, Frank. Look at their over under.
That's what I've been looking at.
Auburn is 7.5. I would hammer that Auburn being over at 7.5.
I'd hammer that Florida.
And be happy to go down. If I go down and smoke on that, then I'm going to be mad at Hugh Freeze, and he better win big in 25.
Correct.
And the same thing with Wisconsin, Kentucky. I'm not sure about Nebraska, but Matt Rule, Nebraska's due to play some football, aren't they?
Well, Doug, I want to follow up on what you just said about Matt Rule. That guy took Baylor, and Ken will come back, but
from the ashes.
He took Baylor. You're right. They were a corpse, okay? They were in the casket. He took them out and breathed life back in that program on the Brazos River. But I think what I'd like to see right now and is the boldest prediction everybody has that they want to make about college football this year. Ken, we're talking about Matt Rule. I don't know. You're Football Writers Association of America. I'm a member of that as well. You've probably had a chance to meet with a lot of the top coach. I know you have. Okay. Have you had a chance to talk to Matt Rule?
I have. And I like him. I liked him when he was at Baylor. I knew he wasn't going to be there very long because he's just, because he's just too good. And, and of course, when he got to Nebraska, that place was in a mess. I mean, a total mess. And so, Scott Frost had just left it bare. And so, I mean, just the cupboard is bare. Nobody ever uses that word cupboard anymore. That's people don't, what do we call it now? But yeah, I mean, it was just decimated. Yeah, really. Exactly.
Well, it's like we don't use the term ineligible anymore.
Right. Everybody. Yeah. Especially in the SEC. Pantry? Yeah, we'll turn this into next. We're going to turn this into a game show, a game show and wagering. Game show and wagering, Rob. There's your next one.
Well,
We don't say the hay is in the barn much anymore either, because we don't have any damn coaches that are really country boys. They're all Madison Avenue.
That was my high school football coach.
We'll have to come up with a show one day. We have to come up with a show one day where we come up with all the greatest college football cliches and ask our viewers to also send us in their favorites and write them down, because there are some good ones out there. I can't wait. My always favorite is, I always feel better about the season when I hear somebody say, and the Longhorns have drawn first blood. You know, I always
All right, I'm going to throw one out there at you, a saying of football coaches. Emory Ballard, after a Mississippi State game one time, Jack Crystal said, well, Coach, any final thoughts about this Bulldog win? Emory Ballard goes, Jack, football is a game played by football players.
Amen.
You quote him on that.
Well, he's right.
Like, deep thoughts with Jack Handy. All right, let's go for the boldest. I'm going to go boldest prediction on this upcoming season. I'm going to go Frank, and then Doug, and Ken. And I want you to tell me what you think in the SEC or in college football is your boldest prediction. Frank Duffy.
I think all this talk about welcoming Texas and Oklahoma into our conference and how tough it's going to be, I think Texas is going to win the conference. I think they're going to come to it. I think they're going to come to Atlanta, and I think the team that they're going to beat out, which I can hear the cries from Oxford, Mississippi right now, is that Texas on their first year makes it to Atlanta, and Ole Miss hadn't been to an SEC championship game since 1963. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be, and I think what's going to also happen to Doug's and Rob's point is I think you're going to get 4 teams from the SEC in. And I think we're going to get a lucky team that did not have to go play in the SEC championship game. That's going to is going to benefit. And I got a sneaky little feeling that team even might be the University of Alabama, because there's a lot of dirt that's been shoveled on the Crimson Tide's grave. And I'm telling you what, till I see the stake in their heart,
well, they got players.
I'm not believing it.
They got players.
Doug Dean, boldest prediction.
Yeah, I may have made it moments ago, so I'll stick with that. And that is, I think to some people, because we're so used to how powerful Georgia and Alabama have been at times LSU. And if we don't run out of time, Frank, I want to circle to that amazing how Joe Brady at such a young age ended up at LSU. But back to my point, I think it will surprise some. It won't surprise me, but it will surprise some that not a single SEC team ends the regular season with less than 2 losses. You may have a logjam of 3 or 4. I don't think 5. That gets to be unlikely. But 3 or 4 teams that have 2 losses. And if y'all haven't read, the SEC offices just released tiebreaker of who goes to the SEC championship.
Yes,
it's
you get down to it starts with
expand on that.
It gave me a headache.
I don't have it memorized, but basically it starts with the teams that are tied. Damn, Ken, it's only I still got a week to learn all of this. And so you starts with let's say 4 teams have 2 losses, so they're tied. Then did they play head to head? Does head to head knock any of them out? Then do they have common opponents? And it gets down to I think number 6 criteria, a random drawing of. And I think that Frank, the 6th criteria says Alabama will be selected no matter what.
And I want to put in a 7th criteria. I'm going to send this to Commissioner Sankey and see if he'll add it as like a 7th or 8th provision. That if it gets that far down, we go to which town has the best barbecue of the school.
Ooh. Well, Memphis, unfortunately, is not in the SEC.
Hey, Rob, let me give a PSA. It's that time of year for our fellow deer hunters who tune in. If you have not, call your co-op or wherever you find seed blend for these whitetail deer and get your order in, because it'll be flying off the shelves. That's where I'm going when we finish the show.
Well, hey, listen, speaking of that, I got a friend in Huntsville that makes the Chatterducks, chatterduck.com. He's coming up with something called the Robo Dough.
Right.
And I'll tell you about it, Doug. This is going to revolutionize. The engineer behind all this is a graduate of Auburn University, electrical engineer up in Huntsville. He is the guy, when the Stinger missiles were not working, the Army went to him and he fixed it to where it's accurate to within 3 feet. So let me just assure you, people, if you're worried, if the Stinger missile hits within 3 feet of you, there's nothing going to be left of you anyway. Ken Capps, boldest prediction. I love what Doug said. I'll guarantee you he's smart. By next Friday, he's going to have got that tiebreaker.
I'll have
theory.
all 12 criteria memorized. Just
Thank you. Thank
That
you.
guy needed. Hey, that guy needed to be the defensive coordinator in the Iron Bowl. That's
That's right. All right, Ken Capps, boldest prediction that they'll have a Crystal in Texas.
I want to go back to what Frank said first. If Texas would play Ole Miss in the championship game, here's what's going to be the greatest thing that will happen. Whether it's good news or bad news, Arch Manning is going to trot onto that field, and there's going to be a cutaway of Grandpa, Peyton, Eli, Cooper, everybody just going nuts, and it's gonna be a Ole Miss homecoming. So that'd be a very interesting game. I'd love to see that. But that's going to happen soon. But anyway, my prediction is I think that Oklahoma is going to do a lot better than people think they're going to do. And I really hate to say it after we've been kidding around with Connor Wegman, but I think A&M, I think Elko is going to make some noise over there too. You look at Mike Elko. And when he was at SEC Media Days, I sat on the front row. I'm like a kid in
he was
grade.
right there. I loved it. Every day you were like the first one in class.
Yes, I want to sit on the first row. First of all, I can't hear, but second of all, I like to be there so I can look at people and take pictures. And, Mike Elko, looks like the guy that'd be watering his lawn on Saturdays or something like that. But man, that dude is smart. And I think that they may, and of course, Wegman's got to stay healthy, but they've got some good players over there. So I think for all the, A&M's just been gnashing its teeth all about Texas in the last couple of months. I think if they'll get focused and we'll look around at their schedule, the first 11 games of their schedule, I think they have a chance to, to be in at least the top. I don't think they're going to be in the top. They're not going to be in the CFP, no way. But I think they have a chance to really make a huge, huge improvement from the Jimbo days.
I want to go pivot a little away from games and likely winners, but look at the coaching fraternity.
Yeah,
now. It's been a lot of change, and to me the most, and there's several of them, but the most you got to include Kalen DeBoer, and that's going to dominate the media throughout the year as it should, and especially with Coach Saban on ESPN Game Day and how he uses finesse to talk about Alabama's fortunes, good or bad, a given week without being intrusive. That'll be fun. But to me, the most interesting coach to watch this year is Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou, because they've got a lot of people really high on them. Consider this, God, how these coaching fraternities intersect. Eli Drinkwitz, you only have to go back to 2009, and he was not even really a GA practically at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. And he was literally, his job was to go get coffee and lunch and bring it back to Malzahn. And he learned the ropes. He already knew a good bit of football, but he learned. He's in Oklahoma.
Somewhere.
Oklahoma by birth, if memory serves. But he finally got his. And by the way, he was a contributing analyst in that 2010 Auburn National Championship game. Drinkwitz sitting right there. Mm-hmm. Imagine getting to go through all of that and go out to play that game. You think there's some learning that goes on with that? His first head job, he goes 12-1 at Appy State, Drinkwitz. Mm-hmm. And then when he finally got to Mizzou, hired him a year later, and after firing Barry Odom, you see coaches struggle early. If there's a reason coaches get fired, there's some rebuilding to do. But he goes 5-5, 6-6, 6-6, and of course last year breakthrough season 10-2, and laid a whooping on, was it Ohio State?
Ohio State, right?
Yeah,
You're in the Metroplex.
In the
So
Cotton Bowl.
I think, and now if you're an Auburn, if you want to look at succession management, whether it's Auburn, I'm talking 10 years out, or programs that are going to be, let's just assume these guys are all successful. If Drinkwitz continues to win and develop like he is so far, he's making $9 million a year. That's not a bad living. But he is 41 years old. Talk about a runway ahead of him.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze is 54. Now you can look at your own programs. Brian Kelly. I think Drinkwitz, nothing against Mizzou, but they don't have the resources that LSU does in terms of recruiting, and they probably not Auburn. They might get there, but I think there's some natural limitations in their recruiting base. So I'm putting a circle and following the career and growth of Drinkwitz, and Auburn fans will get a good snapshot of that when Auburn goes to Missouri mid-season.
Yes.
Yeah, he's from Alma, Arkansas. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you about Eli right quick. I got to know him. I mean, we're not like buddies or anything, but I got to really talk to him a couple of years ago at the SEC Media Days in Nashville. And what a funny guy he is. But also, do you know what his big hobby is? He collects shoes.
Yeah.
He collects Jordans. And so and the
That's
one
pretty nerdy.
The one thing that's very different, about SEC Media Days versus Big 12 Media Days is when the coach goes up first. At Big 12 Media Days, the coach goes up on the stage and does the exact same thing at SEC Media Days. He gives his opening comments, takes Q&A, and then he walks off. But then everybody knows that the coach is going to do a gaggle on the side with all the reporters, just like the White House.
Yeah.
But they don't do that in the SEC. The coach comes on, he does his deal, and he is gone. But so I didn't get a chance to I was going to ask Eli a question on the side about how his shoe collection was going, but I caught him in the hallway on Radio Row this year at the Omni in downtown Dallas, right here in the Metroplex. And I said, Coach, how's your shoe collection going? And he goes, oh, man, I've had a couple this year. But he goes, look, I'm wearing cowboy boots today. And that man had on a very nice pair of cowboy boots. And so I really appreciated the fact that he was getting into the Texas style and had on a couple of pair of cowboy boots. So I wish him well.
Ken, let me throw something in here. One of our sponsors, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company in Collierville, HewlettandDunn.com. I just picked up a couple of weeks ago my newest pair of cowboy boots made of greater kudu. They've got them out there, wild boar.
African.
Yeah, alligator, snapping turtle. They got them all. I'm going to give you my boldest prediction for this year. Now, I think they're going to be of the at-large teams. I'm going to predict University of Memphis gets into the playoffs this year. Seth Hennigan, Texas high school kid. He is, of all the top 10 passing leaders of the quarterbacks that are starting this year, of the top 10, of all those, only one of them has been at the same school for 4 years. He's been a starter since he was 17 years old. I'm going to predict Memphis actually makes the playoff and goes 11-1 in the regular season. I don't see them beating Florida State in Tallahassee. But
I think keep an eye on. I think they might take down Florida State, Rob.
That could be big. And guys, Doug, I want to add something to it. How important is it to play a lot of players? How costly was the win for Florida State over UNA last year by losing Jordan Travis? That really hurt. All right, let's do this roundtable, man. I got a bunch of questions for y'all. Hey,
hold on. I got a prediction. I don't get a bold prediction.
No.
Dude.
Throw down, Brendan.
Throw down.
Give me a break. I think, two. One, I think you're going to see DJ Lagway featured this year. I think he's going to play a lot more than people thinks. It's the new kid, the new quarterback from Texas. At Florida, if everyone's like
they're all from Texas, baby. They're all from Texas.
All right, calm down, Caps. Calm down. I've had enough of you today. Okay, I can't even talk about like the damn Longhorn in my ear all the time. It's like in my face. Love you. But I mean, I think we're gonna see. I think that Graham Mertz is a talented guy. I think he's a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I just don't. I think we're talking a little bit too much about his numbers that were junk points a little bit. I think we pushed him up a little bit. I think he's great. I don't think he's like Heisman quarterback candidate, but I don't think he's going to be better than DJ Lagway, and I think he's going to get on the field, and you're going to have to play him. I think we're going to see a lot more of him. That's my bold prediction. And my last one, I think this is Lane Kiffin's last year as coach.
Wow.
That's bold. But hey, no, Brendan, let me ask, because I mentioned this somewhat, might not have been on the show, but will it be because he wins big, Ole Miss makes the playoff, and he cashes in on that, or will it be because he struggles and underachieves this year?
I think I don't think he overachieves. I don't think he goes and wins a natty or something, Cray. But I think we will see him play. He will have a really good season, good enough where it'll be like, man, if I want to go do things, I'm going to go somewhere else. I do not think it's because he'll be fired or anything like that.
Is he going to the pros, you think?
No, I think he'll end up at Florida.
Wow.
That's the movement. That's the movement of the chairs. Is what I was just going to say. Frank Duffy, LSU, Garrett Nussmeier.
That was a bombshell, Brendan.
I mean, that's just my prediction. I mean, look, I just think I know
Doug,
it's not popular in my world. Trust me.
Well, that's what we're hearing. Like, all right, Frank Duffy, Garrett Nussmeier, coach's son. He's grown up in this culture. He's unusual. I think all on this panel would agree. He's stuck it out. He's the Carson Beck of LSU, maybe?
No, he's the Matt Flynn of LSU. That's the last time that an LSU quarterback. Look, by the way, there's two visuals that I want to say something about. I see my buddy Doug Dean with his Duffy shirt. If there's not a bar below that, I'll be shocked. A garage. It was either a garage or a bar. One of the two, right?
Just for you, Frank.
I want to let y'all know this. This hat is a 2007 LSU National Championship hat. It's a rare hat. It's a Les Miles hat. I don't know how the hell we won it with him. But the reason I wore this today was what you just said, Rob. In honor of the Nuss bus, he sat for 2 years behind Jaden Daniels. Thought he was going to be the heir apparent. Stayed behind him. Watch him win a Heisman Trophy, and has quietly bid his time. I was in Tampa when Doug was reading that list of the 7 punchers' chances. I watched Wisconsin, and I watched Nussmeier go up against Wisconsin. He had a phenomenal day at quarterback in the Outback Bowl, or whatever it's called now, the bowl in Tampa that we were sitting in at Raymond James. He has a command of the offense. He has a rocket arm. He has a very powerful arm. And someone I read, and I'm going to steal their thought, made an incredible connection. When Nussmeier got into games the last 2 years, it was either against scrubs or fill-ins. It was like he didn't have to worry. He got the keys to the Lamborghini, and he got to show off because he didn't have to worry about changing the oil or paying for the gas. He got to tool around it. Now that he owns the car, he's going to be a lot more careful with how he drives. And the one knock on Nussmeier was the fact that he was a gunslinger. He was a gambler. He was in that vein of Brett Favre. So if you see him,
that's good.
Come back into his, to be a game manager, but with that rocket arm, let me tell you, LSU has a Matt Flynn style quarterback that took over for Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah,
way going time ago. I think you could see that type of an LSU team be more pro style, be more passing of an offense. We've got receivers coming out the wazoo, even with losing 2 first-rounders. But the key is with LSU, Rob, it's not on that side of the ball. It's on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Frank,
better defense.
Duff, I like LSU. I mean, every time I say I like a team, it has to be about the schedule. It's not just the team they've got.
Yeah.
But LSU
very manageable,
really favorable. Sure, you play Ole Miss, but you get Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma
at home.
Death Valley, and that's big. Even if you just go 2 of 3 on those, your other games on the road look manageable.
Yes.
So we're a little strange, but we're kind of sleeping on LSU nationally. I'm not
I
going to be
just said
surprised
that.
if LSU is
Yeah.
LSU is one of, I think 3 teams get to the 12-team playoff. SEC teams, I don't see us
Georgia.
getting 4 unless something weird happens.
All right, Ken Capps, closing
LSU.
comments, and we'll about wrap up because I want to.
Yeah.
Ken and guys, this is an awesome show. We've got to get
What a great
get out of
show
here
today.
But we're going to start Monday. Just to give everybody a heads up. It's going to be rapid fire because we got 16 teams to cover. So we're going to do a lot of 12 and 15-minute segments starting Monday. Absolutely awesome panel. And like, look, one of the things you'll notice, like, I can tell when Doug wants to do, Doug will do like that, and I'll step back and I'll raise my finger just to kind of keep the flow going. But
Not raising my hand.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean the input and the knowledge and just what's in y'all's noodles is awesome. And Brendan, I like that. I mean, listen, free speech, man.
When you guys can't talk too much, that's when we go to the little boxes and everyone gets their own little speaker box because then you can shut up and do it my way. I control you like a little doll, Rob. You don't know.
Don't piss off your producer or your caddy.
Yeah,
You
producer.
gotta love on
go
the
talk to me
producer.
about
Hey, Brendan, you can just hit the mute button.
Speaking of being a caddy, like, by the way, I was a caddy at Castle Pines Golf Club, featured right now. It's at the BMW. That I caddied at a golf course 15 years.
Wow.
I ran around carrying. So it's nice to see a little nostalgia up there in Castle Rock. What a beautiful course. What a fun tournament to watch. If you guys haven't watched any of it, if you watch golf, check it out. It's a good deal.
Rob,
Hey,
I haven't spent a great deal of time in person with Ken. I look forward to doing that. Sooner than later. But
He's awesome.
Is it just me, or Ken seems to have a real energy to him? And I'm going to give some credit to the Southeastern Conference for that pep and energy.
Yeah,
Ken,
he's a great guy.
respond to that.
No, he's
also,
a super great guy.
A big old cup of coffee also helps.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
let me tell you what's fun. And Ken, you and Bo, again, it's like walking around at the Grammys with Clive Davis. You know, everybody knows y'all and out there. That's what's. But as a Football Writers Association of America, we're going to be doing some road trips this year with Bengal One. One of them is going to be September 28th when Oklahoma comes to Auburn. And I've got Chris Plank, who was on the show with us July 26th from the Boomer Sooner Network. He is. I talked to him this week, Frank and Doug. He had so much fun being on that show when y'all were on there. And he gave us thousands of views to that man. He has introduced us, and he had me on the show Wednesday. I'm very fortunate because I'm representing all of us. It's not just one person. It's the whole group. I am a Pat Sullivan Heisman 71 speech guy. It's an entire group. It ain't about one. But he called me SEC Rob. But what I'm trying to do is tell him it's a family in this league. And Ken Capps says, Brown, I'm telling you right now, I know you Auburn. I mean, I'm married to a Vol. Mallory's an Alabama girl. My other 3 kids are Auburn. He said, it ain't going to happen. OU and Texas people under the same tent hanging out together. Doug has 2 daughters, Auburn, 1 Alabama. It happens, Ken. We're all going to be one big family, and I think Frank and Doug and Brendan would agree. Tell us how that's going to happen.
Girl wants to throw her life away, Rob. Let her throw her life away.
Look, if she's cute enough, I'll change my hat. I don't care. I'm single.
Hey, but I know one thing. That grandchild's going to have orange and blue on it. I know that.
Oh, I got to stay out of that with mixed marriage.
Yeah. Ken, tell us how it's going to happen, and then we'll wrap it up. And, hey, guys, let me just say this real quick before Ken closes this out. Monday morning, man, we got 4 big games next week. Georgia, Clemson, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, LSU, Southern Cal, and Florida, Miami. Monday morning, we're going to have Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. We're going to have Lauren Meadows from the Gatorbait team, GatorbaitMedia.com and the Buddy Martin Show. We're going to have Ron Higgins from Baton Rouge talking about LSU, and we're going to have talking about the Notre Dame Texas A&M game, our good friend Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com. But Ken, closing comments, and first let me say we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. God bless America. Ken, close us out.
Right, before Ken does, Duff, I got to get this one in, then we'll do Ken. Rob, Duff, we're counting on LSU. You get to go out to the left coast and sweep UCLA and USC. Don't let us down, Duff.
Viva Las Vegas, baby. Viva. I fly out on Wednesday.
Yeah, well,
Ken?
y'all missed one game though. Y'all missed one game in Austin on Thursday. It's the Taco Shack Bowl, which my high school, McCallum High School, will be playing Anderson High School. Week 0, bitter rivals. They play the first game of the season. We have a place in Austin called the Taco Shack. And so a guy from McCallum actually so we got a high school game that has a corporate sponsorship. Taco Shack Bowl next Thursday. I will be there, and then I'll be in Austin for the first opening game of the Longhorns. Great to be with you guys today. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Brandon, for all your great work. Love y'all.
Hey, ditto, man. Greatest team in America, folks, and thanks for watching. We'll see you Monday morning. Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out of here. Adios. Till Monday.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shoppe health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
So important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and